Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a haul sort of pen review kind of video to share with you today. I reached out to Mr. Pen a while back and asked if I could review some of their pens and Bible journaling supplies and those kinds of things. I have recently been using their translucent sticky notes along with their like Slick Writer pens in my Word Study Wednesdays, and I'm obsessed with the sticky notes. I love them. And so they're so helpful to add notes into my book or my Bible or whatever. And so I reached out to them and they were very gracious and very generous and let me select some things to share with you today. So these are a couple of the items. I'm just going to dig right in because I've already tried recording this video one time, so I'm starting over again. And I'm trying to be concise because there's a lot to get through. And I want to be, as thorough as I can. So I'm going to start with these two sets of, one is a set of pens and one is a set of fine liners. I'm going to actually set the fine liners off to the side. So this is a set of quick dry gel pens, and one of the things that I really love about Mr. Pen is that you can kind of select your own color palettes. So, if you have a color palette like this one that you really like, or if you like the earth tones, in some of their different kinds of markers and pens, you can actually, they have different varieties of color palettes available. So you'll see that in one of the other items that I'm going to share with you today. I did like an earth tone color palette, which I really love. Let me just set those off to the side. So these are a fairly typical gel pen, I would say. They say that they are quick dry gel pens. And I do have this is some Archer and Olive 160 GSM paper here. I'm not going to swatch every single pen because with all of the things that I have to share today, that would just really take too long to do. But I will say I really love the feel of these. They have kind of like a soft touch to them. They are retractable, and just like every gel pen, you're going to have this little covering over the nib. So you just want to pop that off, and it just pops right off. You can just kind of slide it right off, just as a way of protecting them in transit. And this is kind of a steely blue gray color, which I love. But these feel so good in your hand. I have other gel pens that I do love, and some of those barrels are just a little bit wider. So I kind of really am enjoying these smaller ones. And then you can kind of see it, that beautiful kind of steely blue color. I will say this is, I guess, supposed to be, the barrel is gray, but this is actually what I would say is a black gel pen. So you have that. And then a couple of these lighter colors. Let's just test one of these. I don't have this one tested. And again, I'm not going to swatch all of them because we would be here forever. But I do want to say a big thank you to, Mr. Pen for sending me these for review, and I'm very excited to try these. So the barrel of this one looks a little bit more mint than the actual ink color does. So if that's something that you're kind of concerned about, then I would suggest definitely going through and swatching all of them. I'm just going to do one more because this is the same situation. This is a teal, and it comes out just a little bit more of a darker green than what I would call a teal or a turquoise. So just kind of be aware, but as a general rule, I really love gel pens, and I love retractable pens, and so I like these a lot. And again, the feel of them is just really nice, that they're that soft touch kind of feel. And I do have my Bible here because I am primarily a Bible journaler. I do use gel pens in pretty much all of the things, but you can see I have already sort of swatched out a few things. This was from me trying to record this video earlier. So this is that black color here, the Mr. Pen gel. And you can see there's a little bit of a shadow here, but I wouldn't be concerned with it. I don't think that it shadows any worse than like my Sharpie S gel does. And so I really like that. And just for, colorful, fun note-taking, I really like that. Sometimes it just helps to kind of have those different colors kind of pop off when you're taking your notes. And so definitely a little bit of shadowing, not anything I would personally concern myself with. But again, all Bibles are different at the same time. So if you are concerned about that, then definitely, consider taking a page in the back of your Bible or in the index or whatever, and using it as a place to kind of swatch your ink. So you can see that's all that I have happening on this page. Let me just set that back down. So these are, I cannot remember the name of this particular set in terms of the colors, but you can kind of see it's just kind of these beautiful pastel type colors. And so I like that they're not like the really bright, like in your face primary colors. So I'm really, really loving those. And I'm just going to set these off to the side because there are a lot more pens to share with you. So let me just set those over here. The next set, these are fine liners, and these are very interesting. So at one tip, you have a 0.4 millimeter, and then on the other, you have a brush tip, which goes from basically 1 to 3, depending on, you know, the pressure that you apply. So these come in a plastic case here that snaps closed, and they just kind of hold in place. And like all Mr. Pen products, you get your fun mustache sticker in there as well. And they do send alongside, I will just take a second to say this, they send a note in there that, you know, if you're unsatisfied with your purchase, to let them know. It's customer satisfaction is something that's very important to them over at Mr. Pen. So I appreciate that because, you know, things happen, and this was a company that was started by a group of teachers in Louisiana, and so, you know, they're trying to get good supplies in people's hands, and I appreciate that they are concerned for quality as well. So these pens, like I said, are very interesting because they have the double ends, but the barrel of them is actually shaped differently as well. So at the fine liner side, the 0.4, the pen is almost, you can see, like triangular. So these are kind of like, they have a pen set that I think is Stabilos, and they're similarly shaped. This side where you have the brush is actually round. And I think this is such a cool idea because immediately when you pick up this pen, you don't have to figure out which side you want to write with. That seems like such a small thing, but it's just kind of that one of those details that I noticed immediately pulling this pen out of this packaging. So again, I'm going in just straight with the black, and this is the 04. It's they write really nicely. Even the triangular shaped size, I mean, you do feel a difference like when you're holding it between the two ends, but it really is just very comfortable to write with. This nib kind of reminds me of if you've written with the Sharpie pen, that kind of nib. That's how this end is, in my opinion. That's what it reminds me of, is writing with that. The other end is, of course, the brush. And so you can go from a 1 to a 3 millimeter line. So if you're kind of right up on the tip of it, then you're going to get those wide lines, and you can get all the way, you know, to the 3. And so you can really work, you know, do your brush lettering if you like to do that. You're going to get those really nice thin lines, and then you can, on your downstroke, you just press harder and you're going to get those thicker lines coming down. So again, I'm not going to swatch all of these pens just because for, you know, for time's sake, but there are 12 markers in this set, and they come in this package, which I appreciate the packaging here that I can just kind of close up and use. I do want to test the purple one just because I love purple, but again, I'm going to gravitate toward the brush tip. I just know which end that is without even having to look at the pen. And like I said, it seems like such a little thing, but that detail is actually really unique to me. I don't know that at least I don't personally have any other markers or fine liners that do that. So that's really an interesting aspect of these markers. So 12 colors in this set here, and these are called the double tip fine liner brush markers. So again, you get a good variety of pen widths with these markers. The next set I want to share with you is a set, and I've already opened it, so I'm going to have to be careful with the packaging, but whoa. This is what I was talking about with being able to kind of choose different color palettes. So I chose the earth tone color palette here, and this was all packaged, you know, very beautifully and arranged neatly in here. And then I just popped it back in so you could kind of see how it comes, because it doesn't come in a package like this, obviously. These are just going to all be loose once you pull out the packaging, but I just wanted you to kind of see how they came shipped. And so these are Bible highlighters and retractable pens. So you have those same gel pens, just in a neutral earth tone color palette here. So and I actually really love this brown one. I already tested this one, so I kind of know. There's, it's just a great pen. And these, they write very smoothly. Really loving these. Again, I haven't tested this one, so let's pop that little cover off. This one is a darker brown. They look very similar. It's probably hard to tell on camera. These are just a little bit darker. This one is a little bit, I don't want to say scratchy, but it's like not a solid line, but this did actually come with some instructions. Let me grab those because it says, yes, here we go. This is talking about these gel pens, and I feel like this probably would go with the other gel pens that I have too, because they're basically the same thing. But it says, to ensure your new pen writes smoothly, it's important to prime it first. You start by uncapping the pen, holding it at a slight angle against some scrap paper. Gently draw circles or lines until the ink flows consistently. So obviously we're just depressing it since it doesn't have a cap. But I would say from here to when I just kind of did that instinctively, yeah, it totally fixed the problem. So I appreciate that they actually include some of that information. There's also some information about the gel highlighters, and that is to remove any excess gel. You shape the tip for your first use. Begin by gently using the highlighter on a scrap piece of paper. You can notice little small crumbs during the initial strokes. This is normal and will not affect future performance. So there's a few that I've already kind of written with, but you can kind of see how they come. And so you can just, can shape these to the shape that you want just by rubbing them along your paper. And you may notice I did, I've already used this one, so that's probably why it's not, there you go. There's like a little crumb right here, but it doesn't really hurt anything. And these are great. So these are also retractable, sort of, you can extend them is what I'm trying to say. And then just kind of roll them back. So you can really kind of get, if you want a more chisel tip or however you kind of want these to be shaped, which is really cool. If you want more of a fine point, you can actually just kind of color them down to get the tip that you want with these. And they are in the same color palette as the pens. So let me just really quickly kind of show you some of these. I didn't test this one earlier, but just because there's only a few in this particular set, and I'm just going to scribble instead of trying to write, because if I'm writing and talking at the same time, it doesn't really go very well. I also really love this kind of olive green color. It's so good. So a couple shades of brown and tan, and let me pop that one off. And there you go. So you can kind of see. So you have 6 shades for the gel pens, and then you have 6 shades of these gel highlighters. I have never used gel highlighters in my Bible, but I'm fascinated by these because they go on so smoothly. But you can kind of see this one is a better example of how round that is. And so you really just kind of just shape it down into be really what you want it to be. You can see this is like the little crumbs that it's talking about that you're getting on there. And but once you get it down to kind of, the shape that you want, you are good to go. And you'll be able to kind of highlight exactly what you want, especially if you do like a more finer tip or whatever. But I also will say, like, you can definitely feel the texture of it, and you can't write over it. That's the other thing. So you're not gonna be able to write over the top of it because it's very waxy kind of feel. But I was concerned that it was going to smudge, and I would say maybe where these little crumbs are, obviously that's going to smudge, but the actual like highlighting itself doesn't smudge. So these are fascinating. There's a lot of people I know, I've seen a lot of different Bible journaling groups that are always concerned about bleed through in their Bibles with highlighters. So if that is a concern for you, you might want to check out some of the gel highlighters because they work great, and you're not going to have that bleed through from those. And actually, let me just show you, because I did test those here. So I did this over my little weights and measures. So this top one right here is the gel. And once it has dried, because obviously I did this a few minutes ago when I was recording the first time, you could definitely feel it, but now I don't feel that texture to it at all. It feels like everything else on the page. So once it has a little bit of drying time, you definitely don't even feel the difference. So that's something that's very interesting. This one here is actually the actual highlighter. And so let me just show you on the back. You might have a little bit of shadowing from the traditional highlighter, but again, there's no bleed through with it. So let me do maybe one of the darker colors just so you can kind of see on camera. This is the highlighter, and I'm pressing down pretty good so that you know, to try to see if I can get any bleed through or anything. And again, a little bit of shadowing, personally, like, not something that I would be concerned with, but every person is different. Also, every Bible is different, so test it in your Bible first. But these gel highlighters, oh, excuse me, my Bible fell over, sorry. These are fascinating, and even now that this one has dried, I don't feel the difference of the textures in them. So that is really cool. And then I really like these highlighters, especially because they're square. And I know, again, I talk about the shape of things a lot, but I don't like it when you have something in like a pen or whatever and you set it down and they roll off, you know. So the fact that these are square, and they're just fun too. So they do have, I'm not going to say they have like a chisel tip to them, but they're not a super hard chisel. So if you actually apply, I don't know if you can see that, but if you're actually applying some pressure, it's almost more like a brush. So maybe be a little bit more careful. And then of course, if you want to go and just underline something, you can go right up on the tip of that chisel and get a fine line. So you can do the whole line. I know some people are like the whole line, and other people just really want an underline. And you can do either of those with this chisel tip on each of these markers. Again, the color palette is the same across the markers. And so this one is almost like a more grayish brown, but everything is just very earth tone and neutral, and there's something very calming about that. I don't know why I decided to just highlight or swatch all of these for you, but here we go. We're almost done. There's only 6 of these, so it doesn't feel so intimidating, but so those are all of the highlighter colors. So you can tell they're not an exact match for what's over here, but everything just is so cohesive because they're all that neutral palette, and I absolutely love them. So I am going to set these over here to the side now, because there's actually one other thing that they sent me that I want to share with you, and I'm going to need to switch my paper here. So, well, another thing that they sent me actually, which was a little thank you goodie, was this cute little notepad with a to-do list on it, which I absolutely love. And then the last thing that I selected, because I really enjoy Micron pens, I selected these multi-liner sets, and this is a set of 16 pens. Now there are a couple of different sets I noticed on the website that have a different variety of some of these nibs, and I'm not actually sure. This is one of the things I'm actually going to reach out to Mr. Pen about. Let me know if you would like to know kind of a follow-up to what I'm about to talk about. But on one of the pen sets, not this one, but the other one, it definitely says that they are waterproof. And when I look at this one, being waterproof, it says that they're smudge resistant, but it doesn't say that they're waterproof. But there is a graphic when you're scrolling through the photos. There's a graphic that says that they're waterproof. I can tell you that I've already tested these pens, and these are not waterproof. So I don't know if I have a faulty batch. I don't know if the graphic is in the wrong, set, and one set is waterproof and one set is not. I'm not sure about all of that. I don't want to misrepresent these pens in any way. The packaging says nothing about them being waterproof. I will say that. They are just a multi-liner set. There's 16 different nibs. And so I don't know. Typically when I think of a Micron pen, they're waterproof. That's why I chose these, actually, because there are 16 of them in these like really great nib sizes. But again, even like the graphic, the picture, it says that they're waterproof, but in the description of the markers, it does not mention it. In the other set that has a little bit of a different nib to it, that one very much says in the graphic, or in the description, excuse me, that one it definitely says these are waterproof, they're artist pens or whatever. So I don't know if I selected the wrong markers, or if this is just a faulty set, or I'm not really sure. And I know that that sounds really confusing, but like I said, it's very important to me to not misrepresent their company if it's just something like a faulty pen or whatever, because they were very gracious to send these to me. Or if I misunderstood what they were, that's also possible. So I just want to put that out before I share these, because I actually really, really love these pens because they have so many different nibs. So we have all the way from a 005, super, super tiny, up to a 3.0 here. And then we get into some brush. There's 5 different brush nibs up here. And so these are very, very similar to Microns. I'm going to compare them to the Micron nibs because that's what I'm most familiar with. Faber-Castell also has a set of fine liners or multi-liners that are very similar. They call theirs some nibs, you know, their version is a little bit different in what they call those nibs. But these are, I'm going to kind of compare a few of these to a Micron nib, not to compare them to the Micron pen, but just because for point of reference, if maybe you have a Micron pen and you kind of want to know what you're dealing with. And so the 005 is the very finest nib here. And I will say this does give some instructions on it as well for ink activation. If you have, you know, like set it down and it feels like it's dried out or whatever, it says to just keep it flowing, to put it horizontally, and then you put it vertically for a few seconds to get the ink flowing again. I had to do that earlier and it worked perfectly. I thought one of the pens was actually dry, and I did that for just a few seconds and it was totally fine. So it does say to store them horizontally. So again, this is the 005. And this is a hard nib for me to use because it's such a tiny, tiny nib and I write really hard. And so I tend to damage the nibs on these a little bit, but you can kind of see it's just super, super tiny. So I'm not going to do all of them because again, there are 16 of them, and some of the differences between, you know, a 2 and a 3 is not going to be super, super huge. I'm going to share the 05 because this is one of my favorite nibs to use for this type of pen. And the reason that these are so great, especially if you are, like if you do like a lot of drawing and those kinds of things, you really get all of those shading nibs and the different things that you can do with these. So now I'm going to get into the really, really fat ones. So this is a 1.0, and it's, this would be similar to, I think, like the graphic nib of a Micron. And so this is it says 10, but it's really like a 1.0 is kind of what but the lid says 10. And these are great. I really like this nib. This is actually one that I use a lot when I am doing in my bullet journal. I like this because it's just a nice, bold, dark line. And that's actually one of the things I appreciate about this collection of pens is that the black is really, really black. And so I'll go up to the 30, so you can kind of see the difference in the nib actually here. So it's very fat, but I like these because they're almost like a calligraphy pen. So it's almost like writing with a chisel, like calligraphy, because it's a hard nib. So these are just fun. So because you can actually kind of make it look like you're writing calligraphy. I can't write a lot and talk at the same time, so my words have to be my words have to be small. But then we're getting into the brush tips now. So there are 5 of these. This one says brush. This one is extra small, small, medium, and large. And so I'm just going to go through. This one is very similar to, this actually reminds me more of a Faber-Castell tip because it's very springy. So you can definitely get a very, very fine line, and then you're going to get a nice bold if you go down with it. So this one is very reactive. Like if you're pushing just a little bit and down, you can get that whole nib to go down. very reactive marker. I actually struggle with brush lettering with this kind of nib. It's very hard for me, again, because I think I'm kind of just heavy-handed with it. So I'm going to go to the extra small, because this is almost like the PN nib of a micron, because it's plastic. It's a plastic nib. And it also sort of reminds me more of the Pentel Signs. It's just maybe not as wide of a nib. Let me see if I can find one. This is a Pentel. I don't know if you can see, but this one here, ooh, it's almost dried up. That's a bad example. Let me not do that anymore. But anyway, that's a Pentel. You can kind of tell the difference. They're very, very similar in kind of the feel. If you've written with Pentel Sign or the Fudenosuke ones, that's what this one actually reminds me of. So now we're moving into the S nib, and this one, it has some spring to it. I don't know how to explain it, but you do get a little bit of a wider line, as you can tell from up here. But it's that same kind of plastic nib that doesn't feel the same way the kind of felt ones do, if that makes sense at all. And then this one is the medium brush, and you can tell quite the difference here. And so this one, I actually prefer this one to this first one, because it's just a little bit, it's a little bit more firm. So for me, it's just a little bit easier to write with, because again, I tend to be a little bit heavy-handed. And I said I wasn't going to swatch all of these, but I'm obsessed with the brush markers. So I just want to do this last one. This one is, again, another one that's very reactive. And you can see it lets down a lot of ink when you are doing those full strokes. So I can tell, like, even now, it's still wet. So you want to give yourself some time here, because you can still get that very thin line, but you are going to get a very massive line if you go like full stroke with that one. So I like this one, but again, this nib is also very springy and very reactive, which when you do brush lettering is really what you want. And so for me personally, I haven't trained my hand, I guess, well enough to do that. So I kind of prefer these ones right in the middle. But that's why I got these, is so that I can practice all of those things, because I really like brush lettering. And you can see we have the 005, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and then 10, 20, 30, and then into the brush. So obviously there are other tips that they have as well. And they have the other set of 16 that they have on their website. It has some different ones up here at the end with the brush tips. They're just a little bit different. So, but again, I do want to say, and just to underscore the point here, that I don't know if these are supposed to be waterproof or not. Okay. But I have let them sit for a minute now, and there's just a little bit of shadowing. I don't know if you can see it. It's like they're smudge resistant is really what I would say. But that's like the graphic that I saw, it's not the graphic that the text said about these markers, but the graphic said that they were waterproof. So that's where I'm just a little confused. And really you have to kind of go over it a lot, but you can kind of see it now that ink is definitely moving. So again, I don't know if it's me, I don't know if it's the markers, but I did want to share that and just, be honest and show you exactly what was sent to me. And like I said, it could be me that I'm just a misunderstanding. So I don't want to misrepresent that at all. But anyway, I do want to say a huge thank you to Mr. Pen for sending me these markers, and also the sticky notes that I mentioned earlier. Those were actually donated to us by at a retreat that I was at, and so they have been very generous, and I really appreciate that. And want to say thank you for all of the markers and all of the fun that I'm going to be having with all of these fun writing utensils over the next few weeks. So if you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.